Chapter 5, King Arthur. While Balduin's journey through Camelot had been a whirlwind of exhilarating encounters and awe-inspiring moments, he couldn't escape the reality that surrounded him, a reality that was rooted in the fragile nature of dreams. As he traversed the castle's hallowed halls and lush gardens, the notion that this was all still a dream, one that could vanish at any moment, loomed in the back of his mind. His village, the place he had known all his life, now felt impossibly distant, a mere wisp of memory that was fading by the day. If his time within the castle didn't bear fruit, if he couldn't persuade someone to offer him a chance, Balduin knew there was only one path to follow, a journey back to the village he had left behind. But the journey was filled with uncertainty, and the old horse he had brought with him might not have the strength to carry him back. It was in this moment of contemplation that something extraordinary occurred, something that Balduin couldn't believe his own eyes. A figure emerged, riding on horseback, and even though Balduin had never seen him before, there was no doubt in his mind that this rider could only be King Arthur himself. The legendary monarch was accompanied by a retinue of knights, and their presence was nothing short of majestic. Balduin rushed forward, coming to a stop just in front of King Arthur's horse. His presence was imbued with humility, devotion, and an earnest longing to serve. Before him stood the epitome of legend, the enigmatic and august figure he had only ever imagined in his wildest dreams. "Please forgive my order, bold as it may appear to you," Balduin began, his voice filled with sincerity. "I am your humblest servant, yet at the same time, your most devoted. Please accept my most honest service." King Arthur, a paragon of wisdom and nobility, regarded Balduin with a faint smile. But Balduin, so lost in his reverence, couldn't see this subtle expression. He leaned forward, his devotion unwavering, as he awaited the words of the legendary king. "I fear your devotion is too immature to bear fruit," King Arthur replied, his tone tinged with wisdom. "I wish for you to become what your ambition has planned for you. But I'm afraid the journey is a long and arduous one, and at that distant point, I will no longer be the king." With a final, understanding nod, King Arthur departed, leaving Balduin standing in his wake, his heart a whirlwind of emotions. The moment, brief though it had been, was etched into Balduin's soul. He had stood before the very king he had admired and revered all his life, the King Arthur who had existed only as a legend in his dreams. Though the path to his dreams seemed longer than ever, Balduin was unshaken. Each encounter within Camelot was a stepping stone toward the destiny he held dear, and he was determined to press on, resolute in his pursuit of becoming a Knight of the Round Table. After the awe-inspiring encounter with King Arthur, Balduin was overwhelmed by a strange mix of emotions. Despite the immense honor of having had the legendary king's attention, for the first time, he couldn't shake a sense of despondency that tugged at his heart. What if his return to the village and a life as a blacksmith, which he had contemplated before, was the right choice all along? The dreams of becoming a knight, so vivid and tantalizing, seemed so far away, perhaps too distant to grasp. However, the melancholic thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a voice from behind, and the strangest thing was that the voice wasn't entirely new to Balduin. It was the counselor, the same figure who had guided him into Camelot. The wise counselor had a way of soothing Balduin's troubled mind. "Don't beat yourself up," the counselor advised with a knowing smile. "So many people would give anything to be in your place. For most, Camelot remains nothing more than an unattainable and mysterious legend, both in the present and the future. But for you, it is a reality, even if fleeting. You are here now, and it's up to you to make your presence here worthwhile." The counselor was about to leave, but Balduin's curiosity got the best of him. "But what is this matter that everyone is talking about?" he asked. "The one that concerns you so much." The counselor hesitated for a moment, and then, as if deciding to share the burden with the young squire, revealed, the daughter of a French knight, a guest at our court, was kidnapped a few days ago by someone associated with the king's enemies. Unfortunately, we don't know who the kidnapper is, and with each passing day, the chances of finding her diminish. I confess to you that the situation is desperate, and we are at a loss for how to act. The words struck Balduin like a bolt of lightning. The daughter of a French knight, could it be the very girl whose screams he had heard just a day after leaving his village? The odds seemed too extraordinary to be a mere coincidence. How many French girls could be in Camelot at the same time, all in grave danger? The realization was a revelation. Balduin had been brought to Camelot by fate, not just to chase his own dreams, but perhaps to play a part in a grander destiny. With newfound determination, he understood that his presence in Camelot was not mere chance. It was an opportunity, a test of his mettle and devotion that had brought him here for a reason. Balduin's journey was far from over, it had merely taken a different, more purposeful direction. He was determined to uncover the truth behind the kidnapped French girl and become the valiant knight he aspired to be, to ensure that Camelot's legends would live on through his actions and honor. Chapter 6: The Birth of an Unknown Knight. Balduin's mind whirled with newfound clarity as he reflected on all the advice he had received during his time in Camelot. It had been a journey of revelation, and now he saw the truth behind those wise words. He understood their collective wisdom and how they were all guiding him toward a single purpose. The time for passive observation was over. It was time for action. With a newfound determination and a well-defined plan, Balduin set his sights on the hallowed armor room, slipping inside with the stealth of a shadow. His eyes sought out the very set of armor the master at arms had pointed out to him. The majestic suit seemed to beckon him, a symbol of everything he aspired to become. He recognized that donning it himself would be an impossibility, but he had a plan to rectify that. Balduin left the armor room, resolute in his purpose. He sought out Geoffrey, the young boy he had offered a coin to earlier. "Are you still determined to pay me back?" he inquired with an intensity that bespoke the gravity of the moment. Geoffrey, with a nod, affirmed his commitment. Balduin then asked, "Do you know how to wear armor?" Geoffrey hesitated for a moment before replying, "I think so." With Geoffrey as his accomplice, they returned to the armor room, slipping inside unnoticed. Balduin's heart raced with anticipation as he gingerly helped Geoffrey don the formidable armor. It was an intricate process, and the weight and bulkiness of the armor became readily apparent. Yet, the young squire remained steadfast, driven by a sense of duty and purpose that could not be shaken. Balduin's hand reached for a sword, and while he might not have possessed the combat skills of a seasoned knight, his familiarity with forging blades made wielding it with credibility a task he could undertake. The sword felt right in his hand, and he resolved to carry it with honor and purpose. With the armor fitted and the sword in hand, Balduin turned to Geoffrey, his trusted ally in this audacious endeavor. "Can you point me to a good horse, worthy of a knight?" he inquired. "A knight not very skilled at riding." Geoffrey nodded and led him toward the stables, where they discovered a selection of unattended horses. Balduin eyed them carefully and, with a determined spirit, declared, "This should do, whatever your purpose." Balduin said to Geoffrey, "You have more than repaid your debt." He lowered his visor, concealing his identity from prying eyes, and exited the castle with an air of confidence and purpose. His steps were heavy with the weight of the armor, but his heart was light with the knowledge that he was on the precipice of a grand adventure, one that would carry him closer to his cherished dream of becoming a Knight of the Round Table. Balduin, now adorned in armor and cloaked in the aura of a knight, advanced with a newfound sense of purpose. Though his skills and experience as a knight were yet to be forged in the crucible of battle, His appearance alone had the power to strike fear into the hearts of those who might be misled by his ruse. His destination was clear, the house from which he had heard the agonized screams of the French girl. Balduin's transformation, superficial though it may be, granted him the guise of a knight, and he understood the psychological advantage it bestowed. For an enemy who believed they faced a genuine knight, the mere sight of him could be enough to trigger doubt and hesitation. He traversed the same villages he had passed through on his way to Camelot, albeit with a significant difference. As people nodded at him in recognition, they had no inkling that the man beneath the lowered visor was the same individual who had been the subject of mockery just a few days prior. Balduin, now exuding an air of nobility, pressed forward with a purpose that transcended his previous journey. Upon reaching the house where the French girl had been held captive, Balduin realized that he would need to rely on more than just his appearance. As he saw someone emerge from the house, brandishing a sword, he wrestled with his inner doubt. How could he face an opponent in combat when his own skills with a sword were far from honed? Summoning all the courage and composure he could muster, Balduin decided to employ wit rather than brute force. With an attempt to feign a voice that was more mature and commanding than his own, he spoke, "King Arthur sent me. I am his most trusted knight. He offers you the advantage of honorable surrender if you give up the girl and submit to the king. If not, the wrath of the Round Table will fall inexorably upon you, and your fate will be sealed." The would-be combatant, momentarily stunned, lowered his sword almost instantly. He stood in silence, grappling with the gravity of the situation. Moments later, he retreated into the house, emerging shortly thereafter with the girl in tow. She appeared unharmed and, undoubtedly, grateful that a knight had come to her rescue. Balduin, who had placed the girl on his own horse, turned to the man who had held her captive. With authority and confidence in his voice, he declared, "Follow me in peace, and the hope of King Arthur's mercy awaits you." In the second case, the certainty of his wrath. The captive, now understanding the gravity of his situation, chose the path of surrender. With the knightly code of honor and duty guiding his actions, Balduin had achieved his mission, securing the safe return of the French girl and upholding the values of Camelot, even in his nascent role as a knight. His journey, filled with unexpected turns, had brought him one step closer to becoming the knight of his dreams, a role he had embraced with courage and determination. With the captured French girl now securely in his care, the defeated captor mounted his own horse and followed Balduin in solemn silence. The girl, on the other hand, was a lively contrast to the subdued atmosphere. She chattered away, speaking animatedly in her native French, words of gratitude and relief pouring forth in a language foreign to her young rescuer. Balduin listened to her with a mixture of pride and bemusement, for he couldn't understand a single word she said. He dared not lift his visor for even a moment, as his youthful visage might betray the fact that he was not the seasoned knight he appeared to be. As they drew nearer to Camelot, the resounding fanfares announced their arrival long before they reached the castle's entrance. At the gates, a throng of well-wishers awaited, including the esteemed figures of King Arthur, Queen Guinevere, the councillors, and a gathering of knights. Amidst the crowd, Geoffrey, the one person who knew the true identity of the mysterious knight, watched with bated breath.